I sit across from Elaine, our dinner table meticulously set for two, a ritual of our 40 years together. The clink of her fork against the plate pierces the silence, the only sound other than the soft hum of the refrigerator. I notice her eyes, once warm and inviting, now distant, as if she's looking through me, past me. It's our usual Thursday steak night, but nothing feels usual tonight. I try to initiate conversation. How was your day? My voice sounds more strained than I intend. Fine. She doesn't look up, her focus on cutting her steak, precise and detached. Yours? Same as always. I pause, watching her. Did something happen today? She shakes her head, still avoiding my gaze. Nothing worth mentioning. I want to believe her, to push away the nagging thoughts that something isn't right. But I've spent my life reading people, first as a cop, then as a detective. It's hard to turn that part of me off, even now in retirement, even with Elaine. Is there something you want to tell me, Elaine? I ask, my voice soft but firm. The question hangs in the air, heavy and ominous. She finally meets my eyes, her own cold and unreadable. I think you're too old, she says, her words slicing through the quiet room sharper than any knife could cut our dinner. The impact is immediate, like a physical blow. Too old for what? My heart races, a mix of confusion and the first sparks of anger lighting up my chest. For this, she gestures vaguely around us, encompassing everything and nothing. For me, for life maybe. Her words are like ice water, shocking and chilling me to the core. I want to respond, to defend myself, to argue that I'm the same man she married. But before I can form the words, a sharp pain explodes in my chest. It's searing, overwhelming, engulfing every nerve in fire. I drop my fork, clutching at my chest, my breath ragged. Elaine! I gasp, the room starting to spin, her face blurring in and out of focus. She stands abruptly, her chair scraping against the tile floor. There's no concern in her eyes, no rush to my side. Instead, she watches me, her expression unreadable as I struggle for breath, fighting against the darkness creeping at the edges of my vision. John, just sit quietly, she says, her voice devoid of warmth. She doesn't move to help, just watches as I slump over the table, my head resting on the cool surface. The last thing I hear before everything goes dark is the clatter of her heels as she walks away, leaving me alone, the echo of her indifference ringing louder than any siren in my ears. When I wake up, I'm in a hospital bed, the beeping of the heart monitor steady and accusing. I know one thing for sure, I'll make her pay for this. Every cold word, every detached glance, I'll remember it all, and she'll regret ever thinking she could treat me like I'm nothing, like I'm too old. Waking up in the sterile chill of the hospital, my head is swirling, not just from the medications, but from Elaine's words. Too old, too useless. The beeping of the heart monitor punctuates my thoughts, a relentless reminder of my vulnerability. I'm alone, not a single bouquet or a worried face in sight. Just the steady drip of the IV and the occasional shuffle of nurses outside my door. I lay there, staring at the bland ceiling, the events of last night replaying like a horror movie I can't turn off. Elaine's cold departure from our home, her words, the pain. Something snaps inside me, a fierce, stubborn determination. This isn't how my story ends. By the time the doctor clears me, I'm already formulating a plan. At home, I begin my investigation the way I used to start my cases. Gather the evidence, observe the patterns, and most importantly, trust no one. The first clue comes from our shared credit card statements. There are expenses I don't recognize, hotels, jewelry, unusually expensive dinners. All when I was either out at my weekly card games or visiting my sister across town. I keep a record, noting dates and times. It's meticulous work, but as the picture starts to come into focus, the edges of my reality sharpen with betrayal. I set up a small command center in my old study, away from where Elaine might stumble upon it. I install tracking software on her phone, something I swore I'd never do. Within days, I have a log of her movements. She's visiting the same address several times a week while I'm out. The pieces are falling into place, each one a tiny betrayal. One evening, I decide to follow her. She drives to a part of town that's upscale, the kind of place where affairs are just another transaction. I watch as she disappears into a boutique hotel, her posture one of anticipation. I feel a sting, a raw, gnawing pain that's about more than just physical betrayal. Hours later, she emerges, not alone, but laughing, her arm linked with someone tall, dark-haired, laughing just as freely. The sight is like a gut punch. I stay hidden, taking photos with a shaking hand. This is more than evidence. It's a window into the life she wishes she had, one without me. I drive home in a daze, my mind racing. But there's clarity in the chaos. I need more than just pictures. I need something concrete to confront her with, something undeniable. Over the next few weeks, I dive deeper. I revisit old contacts from my days on the force, guys who owe me favors. They're reluctant at first, but they come through with information. The man is a known womanizer, wealthy, with a taste for married women. It's almost cliché, his type, but it's another piece of the puzzle. Then, the breakthrough. One of my contacts comes through with a bombshell, surveillance footage from the hotel. It's clear as day. Elaine and this man, entering a room together, their demeanor intimate. The kind of intimacy that speaks of long familiarity, not a casual fling. I sit in my darkened study, the screen throwing ghastly blue shadows across the room, watching the video on repeat. Each play cements my resolve. Elaine has made her choice, and now, so have I. I'm not just going to roll over and let this happen. I have to confront this, but I need to be smart, smarter than I've ever been. The opportunity comes unexpectedly. Elaine mentions a weekend retreat, just her needing some alone time to clear her head. I agree, feigning disappointment. It's the perfect cover. As she leaves, I feel a mix of relief and sorrow. This might be the last time the woman I loved walks out the door, and she's not the woman I married. I use the time she's gone to prepare. I set up meetings, gather evidence, and prepare my case like the old days. When I confront her, there will be no room for excuses, no chance for lies. The night she returns, I'm waiting in the living room, the lights dim, the atmosphere tense. She finds me sitting there, a manila envelope in front of me. "John, what's all this?" She tries to sound casual, but her voice betrays a tremor of concern. "Sit down, Elaine." My voice is calm, devoid of the storm raging inside. She sits, her eyes flickering to the envelope. "What's going on?" "It's about where you were this weekend and where you've been many weekends before." I slide the envelope across the table to her. "Go ahead, look." She opens it slowly, pulling out photos, receipts, printouts of text messages. Her face goes pale, her eyes wide with shock. "John, Save it, Elaine." I cut her off, my voice sharper than I intend. "I know everything." The room fills with a heavy silence. She looks at me, possibly seeing me for the first time in months. Not the old, decrepit man she accused me of being, but someone formidable, someone still capable of turning the tables. "I want answers, Elaine. Now." As she starts to unravel the lies, the room feels colder, the space between us wider than ever. But I listen, every confession sharpening the path I must take. It's not just about revenge, it's about reclaiming the respect I deserve. And I'm just getting started. After Elaine's half-hearted confessions and pleas for forgiveness, I sit alone, surrounded by the debris of our shattered illusions. Her words, steeped in regret and self-pity, do little to soothe the sting of betrayal. She had wept, her makeup smearing, her composure crumbling, yet all I could see was the calculated deceit of her actions. As she sleeps in the guest room, I pace through our home, each room echoing memories of a life that now seems like a facade. My resolve hardens. This isn't just about unearthing the truth anymore. It's about justice, about ensuring she and her lover understand the gravity of their betrayal. I initiate my countermeasures with a call to an old friend, a private investigator. "Tom, I need everything you can find on him. The lover. My voice is steady, the words slicing through the early morning stillness. John, are you sure about this? Tom's hesitant. He senses the shift in me. I've never been more certain of anything, I reply. The conversation is brief, the plan set into motion. Tom understands the stakes, and his professional detachment gives me a blueprint to mirror. Over the next few days, I delve deeper into Elaine's life. Her routines that now include clandestine meetings and whispered phone calls in the privacy of our garden. My surveillance grows more sophisticated. I install hidden cameras, the kind that leave no trace, capturing her betrayals in high definition. One particular evening, as I review the footage, the stark reality of their intimacy hits me anew. The footage shows them in our own home, his hands roaming over her as if he owns her, owns everything that was once mine. Rage simmers, but the cold strategist within me channels it into planning. The complications escalate when I learn from Tom that her lover, Richard, is not just a wealthy playboy, but involved in shady business deals. It's an angle I hadn't anticipated, but it's also leverage. I decide to use this, not just to hurt him, but to cripple him financially. I arrange a meeting under the guise of a potential investment, using a pseudonym and intermediaries. Richard, ever the opportunist, takes the bait. We meet in a plush office downtown, his arrogance filling the room. He doesn't recognize me, the disguise meticulous. I keep the conversation strictly business, but every word exchanged is a step towards his undoing. Meanwhile, Elaine grows more paranoid, her nerves frayed as she starts to sense the walls closing in. She confronts me one evening, her voice shaky. John, what are you planning? You're scaring me. I look at her, the woman I shared decades with, now a stranger fueled by desperation. You should have thought about fear before, Elaine. It's too late now. Her fear morphs into defiance. You can't destroy me, John. We're married, for God's sake. That's just a technicality now, I retort coldly, turning away, leaving her standing in the chilling silence of our kitchen. The climax of my strategy approaches as I orchestrate a sting operation with the evidence of Richard's illegal activities. It's a high-stakes game involving law enforcement and legal gambits. I pull strings, call in every favor owed to me, ensuring that when the trap closes, it's catastrophic for him. The day of the raid, I watch from a distance as police cars swarm the office building where Richard conducts his illicit business. I'm there, not just as a witness, but as the architect of his downfall. The news catches him by surprise, the cameras capturing the shock and betrayal on his face as he's handcuffed and led away. In the aftermath, Elaine is a ghost of herself, the news of her lover's arrest shaking her to the core. She pleads with me again, tears streaming down her face. John, please, let's just end this. We can forget everything. Start over. I shake my head, the final pieces of my heart hardening against her pleas. It's too late for us, Elaine. This ends with me making sure you both paid dearly. As the scandal erupts, with both their reputations in tatters, I watch from the shadows, the satisfaction hollow. I've ensured their mutual destruction, but at what cost to my own soul? The nights are the hardest. The silence of the house a stark contrast to the chaos of my actions. I sit by the fireplace, a glass of whiskey in hand, contemplating my next move. Elaine has moved out, the house now a mausoleum of our past life together. As I plan my next steps, the weight of solitude bears down on me. Yet, there's a glimmer of something new. Freedom, perhaps, or just the raw edge of a life reclaimed from the ruins. The conflict reaches its peak, not just externally but within me, as I grapple with the duality of my victory and the loss it represents. But I'm not done yet. The greatest threat still looms, the legal ramifications and the final confrontation with Elaine. I need to be prepared to ensure that in the end, it's her voice that breaks, not mine. The house feels cavernous, too quiet, as I prepare for the climax of my campaign. The courtroom is set to be the final arena, and I'm meticulously going over my notes and evidence in the dim light of my study. This isn't just about divorce anymore. It's about exposing the treachery in such a way that Elaine and Richard feel the sting of their betrayal. I arrive at the courthouse early, my suit crisp, my resolve like steel. As I walk through the echoing halls, my footsteps are determined. The weight of the files in my hand feels like the weight of justice, hard, undeniable. I enter the courtroom, a blend of wood and solemnity, and take my seat, facing forward, not looking for Elaine. She enters, flanked by her lawyer, her posture rigid, but her eyes betraying a flicker of uncertainty. She doesn't look at me. Richard is not here, still dealing with the fallout of his arrest, but his absence speaks volumes, adding another layer to the betrayal. The proceedings begin, and it's a dance of legal jargon and formalities. When it's my turn to speak, I rise, feeling every eye in the room on me. My voice is steady, clear. Your Honor, I am here not only to finalize a divorce, but to expose a deceit that has marred what I once believed was a lifelong partnership. I begin to lay out the evidence, each piece displayed on the overhead projector, each email, each photograph, each financial statement, like a brick in the wall I am building around Elaine and her indiscretions. Elaine's lawyer objects repeatedly, trying to undermine my presentation, calling it an invasion of privacy, a misrepresentation. But I counter each objection calmly, my years of detective work, of standing in courtrooms just like this one, grounding me. As the hours pass, the air in the room grows heavy, charged with tension and unspoken words. Finally, Elaine is called to the stand. Her voice is shaky as she answers her lawyer's questions, painting a picture of our marriage that makes it sound like she was driven into another man's arms. My hands clench into fists at my sides, but my face remains impassive. Then it's my turn for cross-examination. I walk up to her, stopping a respectful distance away. Isn't it true that you spent thousands on gifts for Richard? Money from our joint accounts? She hesitates, her eyes darting away before answering. Yes, but... No further questions, I cut her off, turning back to the judge. The room is silent, the impact of her admission hanging in the air like a thick fog. The judge eventually calls for a recess, and as the room empties, I remain seated, collecting my thoughts, bracing for the next round. The trial is not just a legal battle, it's a catharsis, each moment an unburdening of the years of lies and deceit. When the session resumes, the judge seems more pensive, his questions pointed, his scrutiny intense. As the final arguments are made, I feel a mixture of exhaustion and anticipation. This is it, the culmination of all my efforts. The judge takes a long time to deliberate, and when he finally returns, the courtroom is silent enough to hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. He clears his throat and begins to speak, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged room. After reviewing the evidence and considering the testimonies, it is clear that a grave betrayal of marital trust has occurred here, he starts, and I feel a tight coil of tension release slightly in my chest. As such, I am granting the divorce, with conditions favoring Mr. John due to financial misconduct on the part of Mrs. Elaine. Elaine's face crumples, and for a moment, I see the woman I married, vulnerable and broken. But the moment passes quickly, swallowed by the wave of relief that washes over me. Justice, in some form, has been served. Outside the courtroom, the sky is a stark, clear blue, almost mocking in its brightness. I take a deep breath, the air crisp and cool. It's over. The battle has been won, though the taste of victory is bittersweet. As I start walking down the steps of the courthouse, I feel lighter, as if I've shed a skin that was too constrictive. But there's also a hollowness, a recognition that the victory is not just about punishment or revenge. It's about acknowledgement, about reclaiming my dignity and self-worth from the ashes of a relationship that went terribly wrong. Now, as I drive back to the house, the emptiness of it doesn't seem daunting anymore. It feels like a blank canvas, a place where new memories can be made, where the echoes of the past can be silenced by the possibilities of the future. I found the strength to continue the fight, not against Elaine or anyone else, but for myself, for my peace. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the road, I think about the next steps, the rebuilding that comes after the crisis. There's a long road ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to seeing where it leads. The courtroom victory marks not an end, but a beginning, the inception of my true emancipation. As I leave behind the solemn halls of justice, the crisp autumn air greets me like a herald of new beginnings. My house, once a shared domain filled with joint memories and dreams, now stands as my sole sanctuary, echoing with the silence of solitude. I spend the initial days sorting through belongings. Hers are boxed, methodically, devoid of sentiment. The act is cathartic, each object a tangible piece of the past I am steadily divorcing myself from. Clothes, books, photographs, evidence of a shared life I now view through a lens of dispassionate curiosity rather than pain. Amid the sorting, I find an old photograph of us, taken on a trip to the coast. We're laughing, the sea breeze tousling her hair, my arm wrapped around her. It's a snapshot of happiness, unblemished by the future's betrayal. I study it, a faint ache throbbing in my chest. But instead of the searing pain once familiar, there's a dull acknowledgement of what was and will never be again. I tuck the photo into a drawer, perhaps to be discarded, perhaps to be acknowledged as a chapter in a book long closed. With the house reclaimed and reordered, I turn to restoring my personal equilibrium. I rekindle old friendships long neglected in the wake of marital obligations. Coffee dates and fishing trips become my new norm, each interaction a stitch mending the fabric of my social existence. They don't fill the void completely, but they overlay it with a comforting patchwork of camaraderie and routine. The legal battles have drained me more than I'd anticipated. Despite the triumphant outcome, the taste of victory is ash in my mouth, a necessary conclusion that brought no joy. I find solace in therapy sessions, a weekly pilgrimage I undertake with a mix of skepticism and hope. My therapist, Dr. Adler, is a keen-eyed woman whose probing questions often leave me disarmed. "John, do you feel vindicated?" she asked during one session, her pen poised above her notepad. I pause, considering. Yes, but it's not as satisfying as I thought it would be. It feels like winning a war, but losing a part of myself. "That part you lost," she presses on. "Do you think it's vital, or was it something you needed to shed?" Her questions linger in my mind long after the sessions. They echo in my solitude, challenging me to reassess who I am beyond the hurt and betrayal. To distract myself from these introspective spirals, I delve into new hobbies. Photography becomes a newfound passion, the world through a lens offering a controlled perspective that soothes my need for order. Each image I capture is a moment stolen from time, a slice of the world seen only through my eyes. Weeks turn into months, and the sharp edges of my old life blur into softer, more introspective contours. Elaine reaches out occasionally, her messages a mixture of apology and desperation, but I no longer harbor the energy for anger. My responses, if I send them, are curt and non-committal. I am no longer the man she betrayed, nor do I wish to be. One afternoon, I find myself at a local art exhibit, my photographs displayed on the stark white walls among other local artists. It's a surreal experience, seeing parts of my soul exposed to the curious eyes of strangers. A woman approaches me, her interest in my work clear from her focused gaze. "These are stunning," she says, gesturing at a photograph of a sunrise over the lake. "You capture light in a way that's almost hopeful." "Thank you," I reply, surprised by her description. Hope isn't something I thought I was capturing, more like moments of peace. "Sometimes peace is the most hopeful thing we can offer," she counters with a smile. Her name is Mara, and our conversation flows effortlessly. She's an artist too, a sculptor, who translates emotions into tangible forms. We agree to meet for coffee, to talk more about art and life, a prospect that stirs a flicker of excitement within me. As autumn fades into winter, the cold seeping through the cracks of my newly solitary life. I find warmth in these burgeoning connections. My photography gains modest recognition, a hobby morphing into a potential vocation. Mara becomes a constant presence, her vibrancy a stark contrast to the past's shadows. Looking back, the journey from the depths of betrayal to the tentative peaks of new beginnings has been arduous but illuminating. I realize now that the path to resolution wasn't just about external battles, but internal reconciliations. I had to dismantle the ruins of my old self to rebuild something sturdier, more resilient. As the year closes, I host a small New Year's gathering at my house, the first in many years. Friends, old and new, fill the rooms with laughter and chatter. Mara is by my side, her hand warm in mine, her presence a reminder of the unexpected gifts life can offer even after loss. The night is clear, the stars sharp against the winter sky. As we all step outside to watch the fireworks, I feel a profound sense of peace. The past may never fully leave us, but the future always offers a chance to redefine our stories. In this moment, surrounded by friends and with Mara's smile reflecting the colorful bursts above, I understand the true path to resolution. It was never just about making Elaine and her lover pay. It was about moving beyond the pain, about crafting a life defined not by what I've lost, but by what I've found in its stead. As the fireworks fade, leaving a lingering smoke in the cold air, I know that this is just the beginning. There are more photographs to take, more sculptures to admire, more moments to share. The path to resolution, I've learned, is endless, and I am ready to see where it leads, with hope as my newfound companion. Months after the dust of my battles has settled, I find myself at another kind of confrontation. This one far more personal, and perhaps, in its own way, just as decisive. Elaine has requested a meeting, her tone in the brief message more subdued than I remember. It's a rainy Tuesday when we sit across from each other in a quiet coffee shop, a far cry from the charged atmosphere of the courtroom. The cafe is dimly lit, a soft murmur of other conversations creating a semblance of privacy. Elaine looks older, the lines of stress etched deep around her eyes and mouth. She fidgets with her coffee cup, avoiding my gaze. "I wanted to see you," she starts, her voice a low whisper, "to apologize, properly." I nod, letting her continue, my guard cautiously maintained. "I've had a lot of time to think, to understand how much I hurt you," she says. The sincerity in her voice is palpable, but it's the weariness that strikes me most. "I was lost, John. Not an excuse, just the truth." I listen, the clatter of a dropped spoon nearby momentarily distracting me. When I refocus on Elaine, her eyes meet mine, searching for signs of softening. I let the silence stretch, weighing her words. "Why tell me this now?" I ask finally. "Because I'm leaving town," she reveals. "Starting over. I needed you to know that I regret every hurt." The news doesn't surprise me, but the finality of it presses down with unexpected weight. This is truly the end of whatever tenuous connection remained between us. "Where will you go?" I find myself asking, a part of me still anchored in the past. "Somewhere new, away from all the memories," she replies, a slight quiver in her voice. I nod, understanding her need to escape the ghosts that likely haunt her as they had once haunted me. It's a long moment before I respond, my next words feeling like stones lifted from my chest. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Elaine. Truly." Her eyes fill with tears, but she quickly blinks them away. "Thank you, John, for everything, even now." We part shortly after, the final goodbye less painful than I'd anticipated, marked more by a mutual release than any residual bitterness. As she disappears into the rain, her silhouette gradually swallowed by the gray afternoon, I feel a chapter of my life close, with a quiet finality. The weeks that follow are introspective. My house, now fully reclaimed and resonating with new beginnings, seems to echo with possibilities. I spend more time with Mara, our relationship deepening beyond casual dates to something rich with potential. She introduces me to her world of art, her passion enlivening our conversations, her presence brightening the spaces that had once felt too stark. One evening, as we walk through a local gallery, her hand in mine, Mara stops before a sculpture, a complex weave of abstract forms. "It's about transformation," she explains, her eyes reflecting the soft gallery lights. "About moving through pain to emerge changed, perhaps even whole again." I study the piece, seeing in its twisted forms a mirror of my own recent past. "It's beautiful," I say, meaning more than just the sculpture. Mara smiles, squeezing my hand. "Like life, right? If we're lucky." Her words resonate, and as we leave the gallery, the city lights sparkling as dusk deepens, I feel an affirming warmth. The journey through my darkest days feels like a distant echo now, a narrative arc completed and left behind. The rebirth isn't just personal. My career as a photographer begins to take off in earnest. Galleries express interest in my work, and a local magazine features several of my pieces in a spread about resilience and renewal. It's gratifying, not just for the recognition, but for the personal symbolism of each photograph, a captured moment of my ongoing recovery and rebirth. Months roll forward, bringing with them a steady healing tide. As I build a new life with Mara, integrating into her world as much as she has become a part of mine, the scars of the past begin to feel less like wounds and more like marks of survival. A year from the day Elaine left, Mara and I host a small gathering at our new home. A cozy place we've chosen together, filled with light and laughter, so different from my previous abode of shadows. Friends, both old and new, fill the rooms with easy conversation and shared stories. As I look around, catching Mara's eye across the room, her smile wide and inviting, I realize that this, here, is my new phase of life. A life not defined by the pain of the past, but shaped by the choices I've made in its aftermath. The evening winds down with friends departing with hugs and promises to return. Mara and I sit together on the couch, the quiet of the house wrapping around us like a soft blanket. "You know," she starts, her head resting on my shoulder, "today was perfect." It was, I agree, feeling a profound gratitude for the present, for the journey that brought me here. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she muses. "We have," I confirm, my voice a whisper of contentment, "and we still have so far to go." And as we sit, the moon casting a gentle glow through the window, I think about the long-term consequences of my past actions, of Elaine's decisions, and of the strange, often painful paths we traverse in search of happiness. The reckoning of our choices isn't always immediate, sometimes unfolding over years, but tonight, I feel at peace with the reckoning I've faced and embraced. This new phase of life, filled with hope and healing, is testament to the power of resilience and the unyielding capacity for renewal that defines the human spirit. As Mara and I plan for a future together, the possibilities stretch out like a promising horizon, inviting and infinite. In this quiet moment, as the world outside continues its ceaseless spin, I close my eyes and savor the simplicity of being, just being, in a world that no longer feels hostile or empty, but rich with potential and promise. As the year folds into its final chapter, I stand on the balcony of our new home, the city sprawling endlessly beneath the twilight. The air is crisp, winter whispering its preamble through the rustling leaves. Mara is inside, her laughter mingling with the clink of dishes as she prepares dinner. The normalcy of this scene, something I once took for granted, now feels like a cherished gift. Reflecting on the tumultuous journey that brought me here, my mind sifts through the changes, the losses, and the gains. This year has been a testament to the unpredictability of life and the resilience of the human spirit. I've come out on the other side of despair, not unscathed, but undeniably stronger. The trial, the heartbreak, the confrontation, they are now parts of my history, chapters in the story of who I was. The bitterness that once threatened to overshadow my every waking moment has subsided, leaving room for something new to grow. In its place, a quiet strength has taken root, fostered by Mara's unwavering support and the new life we are building together. Our home is a mosaic of our lives, with photographs I've taken adorning the walls, each snapshot a freeze frame of moments filled with raw, beautiful reality. These images are more than art. They are visual anchors reminding me of where I've been and the beauty that still lies ahead. Mara calls me back inside, her voice soft but insistent. "Dinner's ready," she announces, her eyes bright with the simple joy of our shared routine. I join her at the table, the spread modest but made with care. We eat, talk, and share in the kind of effortless conversation that has become the backbone of our relationship. As we clear the dishes, Mara stops me with a touch. "You seem reflective tonight," she observes. "Everything okay?" I smile, wrapping my arms around her. "More than okay, just thinking about everything we've been through." "It's been quite the year," she agrees, resting her head against my chest. "Yes, and I wouldn't change any of it. Not if it led us here," I confess, meaning every word. The journey, however fraught with challenges, has brought me to a place of deep, fulfilling peace. Later, as we settle on the couch, Mara sketches in her pad, her fingers dancing gracefully over the paper. I watch her, admiration swelling in my chest for the woman who walked into my life with light when all seemed overshadowed by darkness. The evening stretches before us, filled with the quiet comfort of companionship. As she sets aside her sketchpad, Mara turns to me with a curious tilt of her head. "Ever think about writing your story down? Not just in photographs, but in words?" The suggestion takes me by surprise. "Maybe," I muse aloud. "It could be a way to close the final chapter on the past. And to help others who might be facing their own trials," she adds, always seeing the broader picture. It's a thought that lingers, the possibility of sharing my story, not to dwell on the past, but to illuminate paths for others grappling with their own shadows. Perhaps there's something cathartic, even healing, in putting it all into words, to map the journey from despair to hope. As night deepens, I consider the future. The idea of writing a book, of laying bare the raw and real facets of my experiences, is daunting, yet strangely appealing. It would be a project, not of retribution, but of reflection and perhaps guidance. Turning to Mara, I find her watching me, a knowing look in her eyes. "Think about it," she encourages. "You have a lot to share, a lot that could inspire." "I will," I promise, both to her and to myself. The idea settles around us like a vow. The next steps of my journey quietly taking shape in the safe harbor of our living room. With Mara by my side, the thought of tackling a new challenge, of turning memories into lessons, feels not just possible, but necessary. The year may be drawing to a close, but the narrative of my life is far from complete. There are more adventures to live, more moments to capture, and now, perhaps, more experiences to write about. The hint of the future beckons, ripe with potential and promise, a new story waiting to be told. As I look out the window at the city below, its lights twinkling like distant stars, I feel a profound connection to the world around me. My story, like the city, is alive with endless possibilities, a continuous flow of life's ebb and peak. And as I turn back to Mara, her presence a constant source of warmth in the shifting tide of life, I realize that this conclusion is merely a new beginning. Here, in this space of love and creativity, the final chapter of my past closes softly, leaving behind the lessons learned and the strength gained. And in its wake, a new chapter awaits, ready to be written with hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome and evolve. With a deep, contented breath, I embrace the future, ready to see where this next part of the journey will lead, with Mara, with my art, and with a new story to tell, the story of a man who faced the depths of betrayal and found his way back to a life even richer than before.